Do your own research for what you want to believe. Our systems are flawed. Name that system. What is your belief? It can be anything you want. Only do it for what you want. Do your own research for that. Because, reasoning, secret societies cause change in your world or in your system or in your society. And it's all part of a conspiracy or plot for evil or for Satan to connect you to a system, whether it be a master computer or influencer machine or social influencer. There's a meme about a conspiracy theory and or delusion people have of something called the influence machine. And if you look it up, it has nothing to do with this, but I have to do the joke. So you're talking about Zuckerberg. Derek Mueller, Veritasium, YouTube channel, did a couple of videos on the speed of electricity in a wire versus the speed of light, and you cannot measure these reliably. Oh, you would think it's straightforward, and it totally makes sense because you can just measure the speed of light in a wire or measure the speed of light by measuring light and compare them. And measure it in an evacuated tube with no gases in it so you can get as close to the speed of light in a vacuum as possible. And then he introduces fear, uncertainty, and doubt into the discussion by deciding that you have to do all this mental backflipping instead of, again, measure how fast the light propagates back and forth or in just one direction and do it in multiple directions at once, doing the test at the exact same millisecond to confirm that we can really say the speed of light is a certain speed. It's not an uncertain thing. The lack of certainty is barely noticeable compared to the vacuum of space, which is impractical to test. But what about the speed of light in a wire? Again, we can test this. Yeah, but your presumption of how you test it is wrong because I can come up with a hypothetical scenario or an axiom about how electricity propagates through wires, so it can't be proven. Well, thank you very much for making sure flat earthers are right. You've accomplished very little here, have you? Academia gone wild. Thank goodness he wasn't wearing Speedos. Now, do your own research to try to find what you want, and the other one about secret societies and the system, contrasted with me criticizing a science geek on YouTube for causing problems and not providing any use. How about this? Science papers, when you read them, if they're cited, often lead to website after website after website that wants to charge you money because these are publications. It is a creative work creating a scientific paper. And lots of scientists want to publish them through vanity publishing or online vanity publishing. Vanity publishing is when I print this out, make 100 copies, and send it to 100 universities so they'll have it in their library. Or 1,000 of them. Depends. Versus me putting it up on a website that says they're going to charge everybody for reading my paper that I could have published very easily as a fucking blog post or even a PDF file. One of these methods reaches 100 or 1,000 universities all over the world. The other one, if people are willing to pay these bastards, millions of people. Or me putting it up in a blog post and leaving it there and archiving it to where it can't be erased through archive.org and Archive Today to where it can literally be read by an unknown number of millions of people without any money changing hands, anonymously, so people can learn something. The joke at one time was writing a book and giving it to the world to give it more knowledge is like taking an eyedropper to a sea and saying, here. And then I forgot his name's paradigm is sometimes it's heavy water, which does nothing. And the next one, sometimes it's extremely toxic, extremely concentrated poison, like blindingly dangerous uranium alloy. Well, doing the 1,000 universities is like taking a drop of water to a pool instead of an entire ocean. But doing it on the internet without charging is the equivalent to dumping a bucket into a bucket. Your influencer effect, Derek Muller of Veritasium, has had an effect, good or bad. Versus every time you go to a college, every year they charge money for books for profit unnecessarily. A history book about ancient Greece costs more every year, even though it's the same fucking book, because, in case you're not aware of it, ancient Greek history hasn't changed a lot since Greece. Why the fuck am I paying for that book? Well, it's a requirement. No, it isn't. It's a scam. That's an obvious example of a scam. On the scam's shitty scale over here. Then in the middle here we have charging to read science papers. At all. Because it makes it to where people who desperately need to learn something and get it right can't read shit. Versus Veritasium's YouTube video calling into question, which is what everybody got out of it, whether or not you can actually nail down the speed of light or do a test in wire, which was probably brought up as an excuse for, well, you can't measure light. Okay, well, we can measure in a wire. No, you can't do that either. Okay, are we having the God of the Gaps argument with Veritasium's channel? Or is he going to concede, yes, you can measure the speed of light and get an accurate number, and it's a very good thumbnail sketch for it? Do your own research for what you want to believe, because our systems are flawed. Thanks for proving it. Either because it's money grubbing in college, overtly, or money grubbing when you do the scientific papers published, again, overtly but covertly, dumping it for free to the internet. Secret societies administering changes in our society at large, a plot for some sort of satanic evil thing to connect you to some sort of system. Master computer, or is it just Zuckerberg? The quotes I have about the world being not as it seems and blah, 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 are taken from an influencer on the internet who is not promoted for having any scientific knowledge on anything, and is presenting a fear, uncertainty, and doubt argument where you can never really be sure of anything. And he had an influence. He's a sports person. He's a game player. He plays games. Basketball, it doesn't matter. He may have gotten a college degree in some subject, maybe philosophy, basketball, it doesn't matter. He's a social media influencer, and he's a flat earth believer, and won't admit to it anymore. But still says, yeah, but what punishments do we have for that sports person? His last name is Irving, or Derek Muller of Veritasium, daring to question science. Well, that's what he's supposed to do. He's pointing out the little details, the weeds you get into, depending on how you do your processing. If you do Newtonian physics, fine. If you do, okay, Einstein physics is more hard. Okay, if you do quantum dynamics and, dark matter and stuff, you start ending up getting more and more unsure of things. But then again, I can take out a fucking meter and check the battery voltage. Theory doesn't change the battery voltage. Fucking with what you call a volt does. Evidence-based methods, reasoning, critical thinking, conducting experiments, and testing things to see what happens, and only saying, if I do the test this way, we get this outcome. If I fire a 22 caliber magnum out of this barrel and a 12 gauge slug out of this barrel, they're going to have certain characteristics on impact, depending on what year it is. The air pressure, the quality of the propellant, whether it's Federal White Box or Remington such and such. That's why you tell everybody the variables. That's why you try to keep things consistent. That's why you figure out barrel length does affect speed. But after a certain point, it doesn't. It has the opposite effect. You can do internet research, as we call it, jokingly. But like I pointed out, it's better than being fucked in the ass financially. And if someone wants to be taken seriously these days, like Derek Muller, you need to post this information to where everybody can understand it, which he may have made a mistake doing because maybe he's not perfect at it. Same here on this channel. Let's talk about effect. Let's say you're a teacher. Your average number of students is going to be under 30, 40 students in the majority of schools. Yes, this has a bunch of variables to it, and you can make arguments everywhere, but what I found is when I looked it up, a fair number for the majority of teachers in the United States, the effect they have each class is 34 students. I'm one person, and I can post a video that's viewed 15,000 times. If it's viewed 15,096 times, that rounds off to a nice round number of 440 classrooms worth of people I've taught. It doesn't matter if it was done over a 1 month period or a 1 hour period of time, that many views is equivalent to over 400 classrooms worth of effect. If I'm wrong, I've taught people information that they've now learned incorrectly, which means they have to unlearn it, and it takes X number of times longer to unlearn a fact that's not true. Some of you still believe hypothermia data wrong. Heat retention or expression from the human head isn't what you've been told. It's wrong. It's not accurate. It's not precise, and it's not useful. Some people out there have taught over and over again that you lose X number of percentage of heat from your head, so wear a hat, and cause people to die from hypothermia. If I do a video on that, I can have an effect on, at bare minimum, I'm looking up all the channels I've had, the high average of more than one video for the high number, not just one peak, was 15,000 views. So rounding it up is 400 some odd classrooms where the people I misinformed or informed correctly. And I'm responsible for the effect of that. No, it doesn't matter that I don't like that either. Donald Trump lying on Twitter about a fact that day causing a fucking uproar. Or someone claiming to be a medical doctor when the person is literally legally defined now, finally, later on, months, years later, as a witch doctor and not a medical doctor. But we have to take in both sides. Everybody has something to contribute. We have to give everybody their social media clout. It's based on how many people view your channel. Tee-hee. Yes, that lady who lied to you about disease. She lied to you about parvo, you'd care more because your dog would die. Suddenly we should put it in perspective. Let's do the parvo test. No, it's direct equivalent. Do your own research is often a code word for don't you dare do any research, because it's almost always based on some sort of cult mentality. Flat earther, by the way, that I brought up, who's a sports person, is not relevant, but taking out the flat earth bullshit, it becomes an equation. Do your own research for what you want to believe, because our system isn't perfect. Yes, that's throwing everything out with the bathwater. That's not just the baby, it's the bathwater, the bathtub, everything. It's an all or nothing attitude. If it isn't perfect, we should shit on it. No, that's what the SJWs do. We have flawed systems, but they work better than doing the exact opposite of something functional or effective. I can take a piece of wire and test the speed of light. I can confirm it constantly, and it works everywhere on the planet unless you do some really extreme temperature changes or I fuck up somehow. It was one of the things we did in class to confirm it. The speed of light, the speed of electrical propagation in copper is the proper term. Veritasium, aka Derek Muller, if that's his name. Tactics and propaganda, implying any real answer can never be known, or is unknowable, or is currently unknown, or is in question. God of the gaps versus I can find one shill I can pay out to say the opposite of what science says. Real answers are not based on commonly accepted evidence, or the commonly accepted evidence can't be taken seriously. Stubborn denial of one or more branches of science because they do self-correct each other. So let's throw one out so we can make an argument that all of them are shit. Because you have to use mathematics in order to prove physics and vice versa, right? Equating the discovery of new information, new knowledge, laws of nature, or new forces as being proof that all science before that was wrong, so we should throw out the baby with the bathwater again. Seeing a pattern? The truth being an end result, a mindset that disregards any genuine verifiable evidence if it even smells like it might contradict what you want as your end goal for your fucking project on the internet. Elvis never did no drugs. A belief in and or a need for something to be accepted. Damn it. Flat Earth or whatever. Decades of space exploration or some other science needs to be fake because you can't prove it's wrong. Hand-waving a conspiracy, even though a logistical nightmare of bureaucrats would be required for it to work. See also, NATO and the UN are so fucking effective. Tell me how effective that is. Well, people blame them for conspiracies, but they can't get their ass wiped with either hand. Much less both. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. This has been your video rant for the day. But do you think social media should have a rating of not how falsifiable or truthy you are, but how many times you've been caught being wrong and then refusing to admit it? That's the question for the day. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good